Hi, and thank you for joining me for another lecture. And friends, today I want to discuss the mitzvah, the rabbinic mitzvah of Publicizing Chanukah, of publicizing the miracle. And if you've been following my work throughout the years, I think you already know or have an idea on what this short lecture will be on. Friends, the court, the great Sanhedrin, developed the obligation for every Jew to publicize the miracle of Chanukah. Why? Well, to publicize what Hashem helped us achieve. But the ultimate question is, publicize it to who? Could it just be to impress and remind ourselves, which is how it's taught today, or could it be to achieve a greater social, moral imperative via proselytizing? And if you think about it, the idea is really not so far-fetched. Actually, even till today, the use of flashing lights are still used as attention getters in front of stores. Why? Well, to draw people in. And by the simple fact that Judaism has nothing within it that prohibits Jews from actively proselytizing, and many historians actually state that Jews used to actively proselytize till the rise of Kabbalah, then why not? So, if you ask the average individual with a Hanukkah in his home or even on top of his car, which is how some groups do it nowadays, if you ask them why do they think they are ultimately doing this, apart from the fact that we have a halakha of Publicizing Chanukah, of publicizing the miracle, if you ask them, who is the publicizing really for? Is it predominantly for Jews or for non-Jews to see? Now, if they say that the reason we publicize the miracle is for non-Jews or the godless to see, ask them, doesn't it then seem a little bit cruel to anyone who sees the lights and gets inspired to come closer to Hashem and then be pushed away or rejected for not being Jewish? Especially when there's no halakha to ever push anyone away. Almost like dangling food in front of a starving person, and when they come close to take it, you push them away. And if they then say that the reason we're commanded to publicize it is for other Jews to see, ask them if they're familiar with the original halakha, which I might add does not mention this. So, what does the original halakha mention? Well, in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Kaf Aleph Amud Bet, it clearly states that one can only fulfill one's obligation to light if it is done while the streets or markets are not empty. Even Rashi here states that the reason for this is for the poor and for non-Jews to see, which is why the Gemara states that the Hanukkah must be placed outside or on a window facing the street. And in the next daf, it also states that the Hanukkah must not be placed too high lest those passing by will not be able to see it clearly. Again, reminding us that our obligation has nothing to do with those in our immediate family or group. Now, obviously, if it inspires even religious Jews to continue on their religious path, even better. But friends, we cannot deny that the publicizing of the miracle was for outsiders not familiar with the miracle to see. Also, in the same sugya, it states that the Hanukkah must be able to be recognized as belonging to one's house. In other words, it was supposed to be able to connect the person who sees it with an actual Jew. Now, why do you think this is so? For the Jew to then push the person away when they come to inquire? Honestly, friends. So, let's recap. The halakha is that they cannot fulfill their obligation of lighting the Hanukkah without it being publicized for those outside in the markets to see. Again, from the front of one's house. Teaching us that the whole reason for lighting the Hanukkah was, again, for outsiders to see, and the reason it must be put in front of our homes must have been for them to inquire. And this is also how the halakha is brought down by the Rambam. Now, later on, the Shulchan Aruch and even the Ramah stated that if one only lit for the sake of their families to see in case of persecution, they would still fulfill their obligation. But again, friends, this appears nowhere by Chazal. So this has led people nowadays to assume that the lighting of the Hanukkah is done for Jews to see or for Jews to feel prideful and not to bring non-Jews close. But friends, let's stop and think clearly for a second. What do you think if we have an obligation to publicize anything in the faces of pagans? It will be solely for them to want to join us? And wouldn't any other reason seem not just spiteful, but ultimately ethically unsensible? And the truth is that Publicizing Chanukah should resonate the first act of Publicizing Chanukah that occurred in the Jewish world, which was the signs and wonders the Almighty Himself performed in Egypt, which is why rabbinically, the Arba Kosot of the Seder was also considered an aspect that required Publicizing Chanukah. Because the truth is that huge menorahs placed all over the place, especially when there are no Jews there, and when Jews have no desire in welcoming newcomers into their religion creates more animosity and resentment than any acknowledgement of our God and His Torah. To the point that Chabad has even taken malls to court if they refuse to allow them to place a Hanukkah when they allow Christmas imagery, even though there are hardly any Jews in that town. And at least one time that I'm aware of, the mall chose to remove all the holiday decorations than to be forced by a minority group to comply. And especially when that minority group has no interest in welcoming those who are forced to view their Hanukkahot into their group. So friends, the initial intent of publicizing the miracle was to encourage the masses also to praise the God of Israel, and ultimately to then all choose a life of blessing and miracles by accepting His Torah. So the next time someone confronts you asking you what those lights represent, use that opportunity to share Torah. For more information, friends, on everything Jewish, please visit bejewish.org. Thank you.